Hey, it's Greg from Musician Monster. Have you ever wondered how some musicians maintain a strong brand over decades? They always have new awesome stuff that their fans love and that seems to always represent them. How do they do that? See, a lot of times we musicians are told that we need to brand our music, we need to do the same thing every time. Turns out the reason why so many Billboard charting artists can actually maintain a strong brand over decades isn't because they do one thing. They do many things. And the way that they do this is through what's called a main brand sub-brand campaign. And in this video, I'm going to explain how to do that in more detail so you can experiment and enjoy what you're doing instead of being limited by one thing.
All right, so let's talk about main brand and sub-brand campaigns. Typically, when we think of our brand as musicians, we think that we have to do one thing. But there's something really unique and cool about the way branding works with music. So you'll notice that a lot of artists, if you look at their albums, they're all branded differently. They'll create merchandise that are based off of that album. And then a few years later or a few months, they'll create another album. That's what I want to talk about today. I want to talk about what a main brand is, what a sub-brand is, what the difference between the two are, and how you can create a main brand and a sub-brand that allows you to experiment with different projects, genres, subgenres, whatever you want to do. Let's talk about main brand first, and then we'll talk about what a sub-brand is, and then how all these pieces fit together. Main brand. So what is main brand? A main brand for a musician is typically their artist name or their band name, and it's represented by their logo. So there's a little bit more to it. So let's talk about criteria. The criteria for a main brand is that you want to have something solid that you can come back to as you experiment with your sub-brands. So the core essential part of your main brand is that you have to believe in it. All right, you have to believe in what it's about. So for your main brand, you don't want to do it just because somebody says you ought to, okay? It needs to be something that you really think deeply about. It needs to be overarching. So there are some myths about this. A lot of times we think that our main brand is based on a genre or a style of music, and that's not true. It can be, and that's fine, but it doesn't have to be. All it is it's a idea or a belief or an overarching purpose, reason behind why you're doing your music, that's culminated in your artist name or your band name. All right, so that's main brand. Let's talk about sub-brand. We're going to talk about what it is, the benefits of it, the parts that you need to include in every sub-brand. Then I'll give you a quick example. All right, so let's talk about what it is first. So a sub-brand in music is a campaign or a launch underneath the banner of your main brand. And there are different types. That could be an EP you're doing, it could be a single you're releasing, or it could be a full-length album. All of these things are what a sub-brand is. So the benefits of a sub-brand is that it creates safety, okay? That means that fans are loyal to your main brand. You want an example of this? I'm a big Metallica fan. When Saint Anger came out after years of them not doing music, and the fans didn't like it. So they experimented with that album. And then after that album was done, they just dropped that sub-brand and released another album that, the fans loved. That's why that's so important. It allows you as the artist to safely experiment with different campaigns, different ideas, even different genres if you want to, because it means that you're not tied down to one thing. Okay, so those are the benefits. Let's talk about the parts. What do you need? What is comprised of a sub-brand? What does that even mean? So typically a sub-brand is underneath a launch. It includes things like album art, your social media platforms, and your website. Okay, so social media profiles like Facebook, Instagram, Spotify, and YouTube. All of those things need to be branded underneath the current sub-brand that you're working on. So in addition to the album art and the platforms, you also need merchandise that's branded with a sub-brand. These could be t-shirts, hats, hoodies, bracelets, stickers, pins. So let's give you a quick example. So I helped Manifest, who's a Billboard charting artist, do this with a re-release of one of his biggest songs. We created the album artwork, we created the merchandise, we branded all the platforms, and the name of that sub-brand campaign was under the name of his single release, No Plan B. All right, so we branded everything like that. If you could look at the album cover, you see that his main brand is up there in the top left, Manifest, and then the sub-brand is in the album cover, No Plan B. So that's a sub-brand. So in a few months, he's going to release another thing. He'll create another sub-brand underneath the banner of his main brand, Manifest. And once you start learning the main brand, sub-brand framework, you notice that there's a pattern. Like every successful artist who stays relevant for any period of time has sub-brands, right? Because the fans are loyal to the main brand. That's why you'll hear people say, I'm a huge Metallica fan, but I don't really like Saint Anger. That's why it's so powerful, because when you create a sub-brand, they'll follow the main brand. They'll follow you wherever you go. So let me know, how are you going to use the main brand sub-brand framework Put it to work. And this is Greg from Musician Monster. Until next time, rock on and prosper.